All right. Are we ready? Phones on silent, please. Mics are going up. Studio silence, please. Good morning to you, wherever you're listening to or to us from. You can be joining us from the United States, it's fine. You could be joining us from China, and that means you probably logged into our website or you downloaded the app. If you have problems getting across to us, please do well to download the app. Just search out Smooth 981 FM Lagos on the App Store, the Google Play Store if you're using an Android phone, or the Apple App Store if you're using an iPhone. But if you're listening to us within the vicinity of Lagos or the outskirts of it, we welcome you to Lagos Talks 981. It's a segment of the Smooth Breakfast with Ayo.
And Valentine.
And it's a time for you to talk to us, which means the calls are the phone call is the primary mode of communication here on this show. The number to call is 0144 89981. But if you want to send in a message through WhatsApp, here's the number:
0809 444 That's 0809 444 We're also on Twitter, so you can follow us at Smooth981FM. Use the hashtag Lagos Talks 981.
And we're streaming live on YouTube for this segment. Why? Because today's edition of Lagos Talks 981 is a special. So today is Wednesday. It's a usual habit to bring a special to bring forward a topic of national importance, sometimes international ramifications, as this one is. We have specialists in the studio, we have experts in their own rights coming here to speak on the issue of work-life balance. Today is Mental Health Awareness Week, and beyond every other part of mental awareness that you're conversant with, it's very important for us in Lagos to manage our lives in tandem with work and traffic and some other demands, economic demands being part of it. So we touch on issues affecting work-life balance, managing our mental health, family relations, going to work, managing the stress. Everything will be touched, and we encourage you to call in as we start this conversation. Call 0144 89981. Our guests are ladies first. I'll allow you to introduce her.
So Hauwa Ojeifo is a young woman who is doing phenomenal work in the area of mental health in Nigeria. She was recognized by the Queen of England during the Young Leadership Awards for her work with young people in Nigeria and I dare say Africa with regards to mental health. Her work stems from a personal experience, having been diagnosed with bipolar and post-traumatic stress disorder. And with that, from that experience, she's using that to help others who might be facing mental health challenges. It's a pleasure to have you, Hawan. Congratulations on all your achievements thus far.
Thank you.
We're really proud of you. Thanks for coming this morning to
Pleasure to be
discuss
here.
not just mental health, but also in relation to work-life balance as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
so
much.
That is Hauwa Ojeifo, mind and mental coach, founder of Shewriteswoman, and also a gentleman in the studio, not flanking Hauwa, but just supporting her on the side. We have Charles Aigbona. He's the head of research and advocacy for the Institute for Work and Family Integration, IWFI. Welcome, Charles.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
you. It's good to be here. Wow.
It's a pleasure. And we also say welcome to Jude Adigwe, the industrial organization psychologist, and he's a certified human resource personnel. Welcome, Jude.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're in the presence of family, yeah? So, Lagos, remember, sending those calls, sending those messages, WhatsApp. The WhatsApp number is only for messages. That is 0809 444 0981. But for calls, please call 0144 So the focus is employee lifestyle. Remember, once we spoke about an issue relating to this regarding employee benefits and
Yes,
rights.
it was May Day, so it was
Yes.
just a few weeks back. First of May, we had HR Madam, aka Fumi Bokno here, and we're speaking about the rights and responsibilities of employers as well as responsibilities of employers and the rights of employees in the workplace. So it was really important, and it was a good conversation as it highlighted the fact that a number of people did not know what they were entitled to
Yes.
as workers in an organization.
Mhm.
And so this is not exactly a part two. but it relates with that because we've set that foundation. And today we're looking at the person, the
Yes.
worker, whether you are a staff member, you might be the employer, you might be an entrepreneur, you might not be working for someone but working for yourself, but your work-life balance, particularly in Lagos State.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Charles, I'll start with you. Charles Aigbona, please
Oh, great.
explain the simple concept of work-life balance. What does it mean?
Oh, beautiful. Um, Work-life balance. It's the prioritization of your work and other aspects of your life, which could be family, friends, spiritual, and all that. And this work-life balance varies from person to person and changes according to different stages you have in life. When you're single, your work-life balance challenges is different from when you're married and when you have kids, and then when you have your kids have moved out of your house. So now, however, I have to add that now a trending word is integration, because when you hear the word balance, what comes to your mind is a competition between your work and your family,
Yes.
and one has to win sometime. So integration means now both of them are integrated. So you succeed at work and you succeed in your family.
Very interesting. But there are a few factors that mitigate that.
Sure.
A very clear example is what you might chorus with me if you're listening. Traffic. Oh, some others. Oh, salary.
Yeah.
Oh, see, employee benefits and things like that.
Salary delays, debts, because that I wrote this a while ago. I don't know what, put up a poll that salary delays, do they help in saving culture, and people, it was a massive no, because despite the fact that you're thinking, no, I have money somewhere, what happens is that you've borrowed more than your salary, so when the money comes, it's all gone, and there's a way that you spend more money when you don't have the money. I don't have to explain it, and that gives you
It's
more
mysterious.
stress. Yes,
It's almost
it puts a lot more stress on you. But let me ask Hauwa this question
Yes.
with regards to working and taking a break. What's the relationship between working without taking a break and mental health?
So I think I like the illustration of when, and it's a very popular one, by the way, when we talk about a glass of water or just an empty glass, and you pour into it, and then you pour, and then you keep pouring, and then what happens when it gets full is that it overflows, right? So it pours over.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing about work, the idea of working so much that we look at play, rest, breaks as they're taking something away from me, like, oh no, I have to work, if not, or I'm missing out on something. But the truth is that when you do take a break, it helps you to sort of deliberately and intentionally pour away from that cup so that you can refresh, you can restore, and you can, even have the energy, zeal, the creativity to be able to continue with life. But it's just that we have sort of glorified this culture of exhaustion. This culture.
I can say that again.
That's it. Like,
Honestly.
it's now like, oh my god, if you work yourself to break down, people are like cheering for you, like, you're
Yes,
so
you're such
good.
a hard worker.
Do you
So
understand?
you come to work and you're competing with your work. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I go to bed at 12. Your own is even
As
small.
do you understand?
3 a.m. and
I
we're
mean,
so happy.
and we're happy about it, and we think that it's so, and it's terrible, to be honest. It's like a time bomb because we don't realize the wear and tear that our minds, because it's very easy to say body, because when you break down and fall sick, that's your body, but the mind, what it has to take in order for us to keep up that culture is a huge deal, and a lot of us are just bombs waiting to just go off, literally. So we need to begin, and even in the workplace, this idea of people sending mails at 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. and then the boss is like, look at your colleague. I mean, he was even awake,
Yes.
he even sent it, and I'm like, what on earth?
But sometimes they encourage it now. It's remote functionality or remote work.
At 12
Even
midnight.
then, I know some
You
organizations.
had a boss that sends emails at 3 a.m.
We all had bosses that
Yeah,
sent
but
emails at 3
That's what we're
a.m.
saying, that, and we felt good that I respond to emails at 3 a.m.
Yes.
We glorify it,
That's
like
it.
you mentioned.
We glorify it,
We-
but it shouldn't be the case. I know organizations that have a strict policy. If you send a mail from 9 p.m., they send you a caution mail. Like, literally, like, stop it.
Nice.
If you couldn't be
should be
productive
a
during your
policy,
work time,
yes.
then I don't know what you're trying to do beyond your work
Thank
time.
you.
All right, so let's now we're getting well into stress and we're examining all those issues that contribute to the employee stress life. But what would you say is one of the most glaring ones, Jude?
As regards stress.
Yes.
So, in terms of you see physical exhaustion, most times you realize that people after working so hard and again spending most of their times in traffic, they get home feeling so physically exhausted. and the next morning you find them sleeping in buses.
Mm.
Some even while driving
Mhm.
might doze off.
Mm-hmm.
So that physical aspect of it, because stress could be both physical as well as psychological. It's a reaction to stressors, and these stressors could be work related as well as organizational related. So the most obvious one is the physical aspect, but of course, like she said, we have the mental aspect, which is ignored.
Yes.
And most times people have depression. I remember reading a particular article, and that was World Health Day in 2017. They reported that about 7 million Nigerians have depression.
Wow.
And these issues are not taken seriously because of our culture, the way we see mental health, the stigmatization that comes with it. So these are concerns that are there. But like I said, the obvious is physical.
I mean, that doesn't come as a surprise to me. But then again, some people will be listening and hear you say 7 million Nigerians. Wow, depression? I thought that was an Oyibo man's sickness. But it's real. I mean, it also reflects in the way we examine mental health issues. When you say mental health, people innately think for Edo, Uselu, for Lagos, Yaba. You know, that's usually the first thought that comes in your mind. But when you think about it now, how much attention do you think, not just the government, because it would easily allude it to the government as a government responsibility, but how much attention do you think we all pay to mental health in Nigeria?
Not much, at least not enough. So I think a lot of times when I speak with people, it's that we're so deluded, like we don't look at the reality. But when you see some of the statistics, they're very alarming. Like the fact that Nigeria is the 10th most suicide-prone country in Africa, 30th in the world. How even there was even a latest release by the, I think, Ministry of Health, and how about 30 to 40% of Nigerians are living with a form of mental health issue. There are more and more, and how suicide is the second largest or leading killer of young people between the ages of 15 and 20, and how the fact that we have one psychiatrist to about 1.1 million Nigerians, statistics like that make you like, what's going on here,
Wow.
but we don't, we're still in denial, because it's a case of the narrative and how it has kind of formed our mindset. So when you say mental, that's where the conversation ends and people just check out. But the truth is, a lot of us are dealing with it, and a lot of us know people who are dealing with it as well. It's not so much about the extreme aspect of you're dealing with an illness. Sometimes it's a psychosocial condition. It's like stress related. It's maybe a divorce, or a marriage having issues, or financial burdens, or maybe a bad boss that just literally breaks your heart every single day. I used to have that as well. All these little things that happen to you right in the workplace, and they take a toll on you. So I think we need to continue the conversations beyond the conversations as well, because what I find in workplaces is that they will do, yes, we're interested, and they're like, come and do health talk, and I'm like, okay, let's do the health talk, but what happens after the health talk?
Nothing.
Let me ask Charles the next question, because when you were speaking now, I just thought about, in this large scheme of things, both the employer, in case of a workspace, and the employee have responsibilities. So when you talk about work-life balance, as for me and perhaps Valentine, it's our responsibility to measure the amount of time we spend at work, doing work, and spend at home. So there's one. So I'd love for you to talk on that. What should you be conscious of, or what should be your role in maintaining a balanced work and life? Your work and life is balanced. And also from policies at work, what recommendations would you give to organizations with regards to policies to ensure that their staff have a good work-life balance?
Interesting. I would like to begin by saying one of the stressors at work is the work-family conflict.
Explain.
Because you have your duties, your family duties, and you have your duties at work. Now you're working so hard for your family, and then the duties of your family, there are some you can't actually outsource. So
they send you a text message. Okay, the NEPA people are here. They're here to cut lights.
So you're here in between between the two of them, and you are by the work family conflict. So talking about the policies in the organizations, there has to be some family responsible policies. It used to be called family-friendly policies, and it's still called that, but we prefer to use the term family-responsible policies because when you say family-friendly, it's like optional. You could be friendly with the
nice to
family.
do.
It's nice to do, yeah. But family-responsible policy, to realize that you need to have these policies in place because you are family responsible. Because the family has a role to play in the productivity of the individual. So that's why when we talk of the toxicity in the workplace, because the workplace is toxic and all that, we talk about the crossover effect. I begin with the spillover effect. Spillover effect is that the boss has been harsh, has made his life uncomfortable for its direct report, and the guy just moves it down to the others down the line. The shredding goes on, but it doesn't end there. The crossover effect is that when the man goes home to his family, he carries that toxicity back home, and it pollutes the family. The family is supposed to be a place to refresh, to rejuvenate, and to get you prepared for work because you're working for the family.
Yes.
So there's a need to understand these two domains and see how they interact, and then to take care of it. So we have several family responsible policies. What are that in many places these policies are not implemented?
Okay.
Because
what are some? Can you give us samples of some of the policies?
several. You have the several leave, paternity leave, maternity leave, child care.
In Lagos State, we have 2 weeks paternity leave. Do you think it's enough?
Is it effective? Has it been implemented?
It has been implemented.
Okay.
Is it enough? 2 weeks?
Yes, it is. Remember, the paternity leave is for the dad.
Yeah.
To do what in 2 weeks?
Actually,
The mom stays home 3 months. Let's be practical here.
No.
But, I mean, it's your call though.
yes. Let's even get others to adopt the 62 weeks.
First of all.
Yes, let's start from that. Okay, then you have flex time, working from home. And then we've been able to have conversations to say, because people treat this with suspicion and say, hey, I'm even seeing him, he's not working as much when he's at home. We've also then seen in organization that more than those policies, the implementation of these policies, and who is the cog in the wheel in implementation of the policies? Is it the CEOs? Is it the HRO directors? Or is it the line supervisors? It's clear that you close at 5. But at times we've seen cases in our research where you dare not leave while your boss is still there.
Yes.
So even if it's 5, you are there. So you finish your job for the day. So maybe you are killing the time waiting for him to go by checking Facebook or doing eye service.
And God help you if your boss does not have a happy home. So he's trying to stay away from home.
Precisely.
Precisely. You see all these issues?
And the one final one is the career consequence of using the policies. Because we've seen in some cases, like of some companies, where even the paternity leave has just been struck off. Why? Because there was a man that had his wife delivered, and then he did not take the paternity leave, and he was rewarded to say his love for the company, he's diligent, he's all that. So he's being glorified. So people took the same line. So why they know I'm not thinking about it. Oh, great. After a while, that was just removed from the policies. So this is what we see in the workplace.
Thank you, Charles. But Jude, as a human resource personnel, I mean, you see all these things. Like Charles he has laid out some of these ways that companies or employers find ways to augment on the stress. For want of a better word, augment on the stress that employees face on a daily basis. But does it end in leave? And there are other ways that you could, within a system, I mean, support based on your experience, that you could say employers could actually encourage that this stress, the workers are de-stressed within the workplace.
Okay, so that just reminds me of an article, because I write opinion editorials for Business Day.
Okay.
An article which is in press right now, and it's on flexi time, telecommuting, as well as nap rooms.
Wow, big words.
Yes, I'm trying to make a case for those.
Okay.
Please do.
Because I realize that it's not simply about talking about leave. Some of these leave days are not enough. For instance, someone is bereaved. You give maybe compassionate leave of 5 days. It's not enough. Grief. People vary with the way they deal with grief.
Right.
So it could take someone 3 months. Some it could take 1 year. And if you can't afford to let employees leave the organizations for that long. So what I propose is this: we could begin to talk about, let's say, nap rooms. People could decide to, if organizations have nap rooms in their organizations, what happens is that when they feel exhausted physically or mentally, they could go in there and just nap for 30 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Nap. NAP.
Yes.
AKA sleep.
Sleep.
Short time sleep.
Short sleep.
Okay, just to be clear.
Okay. Yes. So we could have nap rooms. I mean, big firms like Google, they have this. All right. And they realize that when people have time to refresh, productivity also increases.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Let me just play devil's advocate right
Alright.
there. Now, you've mentioned a creative organization, and for creatives, you can get away with that. How about when you're trading on this in the stock market? You're trading and you want to go and sleep. When that sleep can cost you $1 million.
I understand.
So I'm not saying, I'm cheering you on
Yeah.
because, of course, I work in the creative space. I have, I won't say this, but nap rooms for me are essential. But how then do you apply, or what's the alternative, or not alternative, what's the similarity or similar structure for organizations like banks? You won't tell the man at the teller to go and have a nap for 30 minutes while customers are stranded. Because if we're going to propose policies, we have to ensure that it's practical and the organizations can work with them. What's the alternative suggestions?
I mean, we could also have a situation where we have maybe you work for 1 or 2 days and you have a 1 day off. It's possible.
Okay.
We could have that. We could have shifts. These are ways in which you could address this. Telecommuting, like I said, for some organizations, you could decide to, depending on the nature of the business of that organization, you could decide to have individuals work from homes.
Okay.
And again, it also helps the organization to cut costs.
Yes.
Running costs, overhead costs that are tied to people being in the office. When they work from home, it makes it easier. The organization also cuts down costs. Then again, we also talk about flexi time. People have other commitments, like he said. After work, on every given day, take for example in Lagos. Lagos is a beehive. We know very well that people get caught in traffic.
Yes.
On every given day. So 30 minutes could make a lot of difference. If you leave the organization 30 minutes before closing time, it makes a lot of difference. You could determine whether you will spend 3 hours in traffic or just 30 minutes.
Or just 2 hours.
Or just 2 hours.
You know, I would just comment to say
Sorry,
that we've carried out extensive studies on farm responsible policies in companies in Lagos.
Okay.
I'll just tell you the magical effect of the flex time.
Okay.
There are companies here in VI in which their staff live on the mainland. So you know what they do? They have to leave their houses 4 a.m., 5 a.m., just to beat the traffic to get to their offices. Now with flex time is when you come, you clock in, you resume. So you find them resuming at 7, at 6:30 and all that. So you've done your journey and 30 minutes to the office. So you've skipped the traffic of 3 hours. You start your work. And they say they're able to work productively before more people come. And then they close at 3. And by 3, you leave the office and you do the bridge before everybody else gets there. And you're home 3:34. Prepare meals for your kids, help them with their homework, sleep early, and you're ready for work the next day.
But Charles, let me not knock that. I'm not being a pessimist by saying this.
Okay.
But that is practical in a very sane society or climate, right? But you find that most people who try to do that, applied flexi time, sometimes discretionarily by themselves, they get to the office in time, purposely because they want to catch up on the sleep that they suspended. And then they get to the office and they have to take the remaining 2 hours of sleep before work starts.
Yeah. Okay, we did so many doubting Thomases like Valentine. What we did was to actually measure the productivity benefits of this and to share it with the others that are doubting, to say, okay, so how does this work? How do you monitor this? Because when I go jogging in the morning, I see people in their cars sleeping, to wait for the office to open to resume.
Right.
Now, if they have access to resume and start working then they have some things done. And to remember that they also have slept early because they've closed early.
Early, yes.
So they sleep 9.
So it's a cycle.
It's a cycle. It's a cycle. So we've seen that it works.
All right. In Nigeria, most times we experience all jack, all play and no work. I all work and no play makes jack as well. But that's the usual mix of the quip, the statement that people make. But usually now in Nigeria, it's all work and no work, all work and more work. Sometimes that is affected by the choice of residence. I'll come to that right after the break. The fact that people pick the locations they want to live in based on the location of the work, and that affects not just their pockets but affects their mental balance because there's a lot of pressure on them and their families. We'll come back to that, but in the meantime, if you just joined us, it's Lagos Talks 981. The conversation, it's a special conversation, is around employee lifestyle, managing the proper work-life balance. We have as guests Hauwa Ojeifo, who's a mind and mental coach and founder of shewriteswoman. We have Charles Aigbona, the head of research and advocacy for the Institute for Work and Family Integration. Also, we have Jude Adigwe, an industrial organization psychologist and a certified human resource personnel. Please stay with us.
Nice one.
How's it going? Are we exciting the listeners?
Oh, nice one. Yeah, people are. I just read a message one that I said, "Oh, nice." In this person's organization, I have a nap game room, and they also do flexi time, and I want to work for that. Okay, no, I don't want. I love it.
Smooth is great.
It really helps the morale of employees. We can't really complain because we have flexi time. So once we're done in the morning, we have to resume at 5 a.m.
Okay.
And so we leave our houses really early, but we finish at 11 in the morning.
Okay.
So the time is yours to do what you want to do. If you want to go and sleep and recoup on the sleep that you couldn't, then you have the opportunity to do that. If you want to go and do other stuff, it's your business. So they're giving you your time, because that's another thing. Another aspect we must look at is the economic influence on our work-life balance. So for instance, even if you give someone 6 hours to work in a day, they are going to look for a second job. You know why?
True.
Because the economy is hard. So the economy forces people to not rest. Do you understand what I mean? So why we talk about things like this, because many people, if you give them an opportunity to have more time to themselves, guess what? They use it to work. What do when people use their leave days to do? Attend work functions, attend burial, funerals. Many people take their leave to actually go on holiday
rest.
or to rest at home or just to stay.
Please bring us back in and bring us back.
Okay. So how many people do that?
Studio.
So we have to also look at.
Sorry, studio is live. Mics are up.
Yes, the vision of our Lagos is one where traffic is non-existent and stress is gone. But we're still in today and we're still looking forward to how we can manage the situation as it is at the moment. This is Lagos Talks 91 here on Smooth 98.1 with Valentine.
And Ayo.
And we're speaking on a very important topic that affects possibly everyone that's listening. And that's how to achieve proper work-life balance. And to discuss this with us, we have in the studio with us Charles Aigbona, who is the head research and advocacy of Institute for Work and Family Integration, and also Jude Adigwe from the same organization, industrial organization psychologist and a certified human resource personnel. Joining us from the mental health aspect, which is very critical, is Hauwa Ojeifo, who is mind and mental coach, founder of shewriteswoman. Now, Hauwa, we talked about family responsible policies. I love that as well. I'm adopting it from Charles. No longer family friendly. family responsible policies. But we also talked about the human psyche as to you're given enough time to possibly rest, but you want to spend that time doing other things. So I was talking about the fact our work time is flexible. We work from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. as presenters. But what happens or ends up happening is that you finish work and you're going for one meeting, going for one other thing. So talking to the individual now, how important is it for your mental health? We've talked about stress. We've talked about spending time with your family. How important is it for your mental health to have a social life?
I like that.
I mean, your mental health having a social life, that's interesting.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, of course, the obvious answer is it's absolutely very important. But I like to also come back to an issue of culture. So whether we're talking about workplace culture or it's more of an individual culture, the truth is that it overlaps. So it is we who are individuals who go into workplaces and we build that culture. So it's not like it's really different, that idea of let's go, and we don't stop. So it's rethinking that culture and looking at the consequence of what it's doing, and us as a people being deliberate enough to hold ourselves back in terms of, the go culture, the traffic culture, the you have a weekend but use the weekend to attend one day for Owambe, the other day for, and then one day you are dreading Monday because you really don't rested over the weekend. So I always tell people, irrespective of the workplace, you have to find and define, self-care for yourself, because it is very, very important, because we see that whether it's productivity, whether it's creativity, whether it's, rest and innovation, all of these things are linked to your mental wellness. So if indeed you want to live a life where you're productive, or you want to be able to be productive at your workplace, or you want to be a better innovative person, or come up with more innovative ideas or creative ideas, or function better for your family and things like that, you have to deliberately, on an individual level now, be able to say, okay, fine, I need to maybe turn off my mobile data at XYZ time and shut off the outside world.
Wow. How
you know.
possible is that?
It is very possible. I used to think it was impossible.
You miss emails.
Emails.
The whole
That's
point.
the thing. That's the thing. We think that there is this sense of urgency that we need to do it now. If not, something's gonna happen. I assure you, nothing is gonna happen. The world is gonna continue spinning, and you're gonna be fine. But look at the consequence. The consequence is that your mind is taking a huge hit. And one day, a couple of years time, like it happened to me, I used to be on the go, 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 go until I broke down. And by the way, I used to work in a financial space, so I know what I'm saying.
Okay.
And I broke down. I had a mental breakdown, and it started at the time of work. And it was just like the final ingredient for my kaboom,
But
And
to slow you down, how did you know that you were going through a mental breakdown?
things were changing. Initially, and that's the sad thing, because we are either unaware or underaware. I tell people, once you think there is an issue, there is an issue. Because at the point when you think there's an issue, you've probably lost so many other signs that have flagged you off on the way.
Okay.
So for me, it was things like really hating work. I knew I liked it at some point. I knew I could do it, but at some point I stopped being able to do it. Like, even if I tried, I would stay at my system and have a complete brain freeze. Like, I'm trying to write a report, but it's not coming. I know, okay, like, I've analyzed it. Time for me to begin, and I just couldn't. I was now losing track of my day. Like, I'm like, okay, well, it's 1 o'clock. How? What have I been doing over the past 3 hours?
Yeah.
Like, I'm falling sick in a way that, and this is something that is very common, but people don't know it's a mental health issue. In a way that you go to the hospital, you do test, you're fine, but you're sick. And like, I'm sick, my temperature is high, like, I know I'm sick. And then I started having sick days, and I used all my casual leave to be sick. I used all my annual leave being sick. At some point, they're like, girl, we may have to start deducting from your salary because this your sick is a problem.
And that's adding to the pressure.
It's adding to the pressure, because I also felt like I needed to come back. I needed to, and nobody ever thought for a second, like, what, hold on. What is really going on here? Maybe you need to just step away from work. So these are the consequences we need to look at. So when you're saying, oh, my job is going to suffer, no, actually, if you don't stop, your job will suffer, and you will suffer as well. So it's about helping people see all the pictures and all the perspectives, because if we don't begin to share these stories, these real life stories, people don't see that. Because the truth is, people can relate. There are so many people that I know out that are still within the corporate life and financial institutions, and they're like, man, I used to know people who used to get through the day by taking substances.
Yeah.
They smoke in the morning, or have to like take two shots
Several
times,
yes.
like, and they get hungry and they're like, this is the only way I can, get
Distress.
through the day. And I'm like, really, you cannot tell me that employers do not see this happening. You see it, but as long as your bottom line is increasing, you're like, go you. And it cannot be the way we work anymore. Because now, at least the World Health Organization has been able to come out with statistics and studies, I think that was in 2017 or so, saying that for every $1 invested into an employee's mental health, you reap benefits in excess or in about $4. So, and there are companies that are showing that it is indeed true that when you invest in the mental health of your employers, it can contribute to your bottom line, because ultimately companies or employers want to see that direct correlation, even if, to be honest, that's not all that makes an organization. But clearly that's where we have gotten to. We have to now negotiate based on your bottom line. And there are other statistics of how the global economy loses about $1 trillion US dollars a year from workplace lack of productivity linked with mental health issues. So who are we really kidding?
Do you think every workplace should have a psychologist?
I would say some level of a mental health professional.
Not human resource
Yeah,
personnel.
absolutely.
No disrespect to you. But very quickly, we'll take a break. We'll come back to take your calls. Please call us and ask your questions. 0144899981. I'll come back to you, Jude and Charles, for a very important question right after this.
That's a very important question. I think for bigger organizations there should be a psychologist. I think because in this our country, in this our nation, and there's some industries that also need it in particular. So in other clients, as a social worker, you have to see a psychologist periodically because of what you have to deal with.
Yes.
You have to deal with children taken away. We don't have that in Nigeria. I have a friend who worked in she works for she's a social worker in Nigeria, and she was having a mental breakdown and she didn't understand the reason why. The organization has a duty of care to them, to look after them because of what they have to go through on a daily basis as part of work. You're seeing children being abused. You're seeing, things that you go home and you be thinking about after work. Like
You're worried.
You think of the child, or you fail in a case and you take it as it was my fault. It's a personal failure.
You put it on Twitter.
In the UK, it's
really standard.
Standard practice. You have to see you have to go for counseling periodically as a social worker. In the financial industry as well. In Nigeria,
That one is worse. Bang.
As in,
Sorry, studio. Let's go back.
Oh, back.
Mics are up.
Instructions and are regulatory sign.
You're tuned in and listening to Smooth 98.1 as part of Smooth Breakfast. This is Lagos Talks 981 with Ayo.
And Valentine.
And we have our guest in the studio, Charles Aigbona, Head Research and Advocacy for Institute for Work and Family Integration, and also Jude Adigwe, an industrial organization psychologist and certified human resource personnel of the same organization. And also joining us is Hauwa Ojeifo, a mind and mental coach and founder of Shewriteswoman. We're looking at the issue of employee lifestyle, managing the proper work-life balance. And we have messages on WhatsApp 0809444091. This one's from Shola. Shola says, for me, stress affects my weight. I get fatter when stressed and I eat a lot. P.S. I wake up and I have to drink coffee every morning. Working in financial services is stressful. I guess the underlying question is, how do I manage it? How is it possible, Charles, for Shola to have a work-life balance when she has targets? And we know that the financial services business in Nigeria is target driven. And if you do not achieve that, you would most likely you're almost symbolic of somebody who does not have a life goal, because that's how everybody will look at you. But how does somebody like this handle it?
Okay, now many authors have been able to define work-life balance as balancing achievements with enjoyment. Achievement in terms of your career, your projects, your job, and all that. Enjoyment, not really as in mindless laughter, but things of fulfillment, things of joy. All these, when there's a harmony between these, then you're able to handle the stress better.
All right. Let's go to the phone line, 0144899981.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Hello, Martins. Where are you calling from? Thank you for joining us, Martins. Please ask your question. Say that again. Thank you.
It's almost 20 years overdue.
Yes.
Because when I used to work in the financial services sector, back in Apapa, I worked in Apapa for 10 years. We had people coming from Ibadan, Songwater, Abeokuta, and they drive to Lagos every day.
Wow.
See what happens today.
Now, I don't know whether some of those people are still alive.
They are.
And I know that a lot of other people still exist that still do those runs. Now, outside of some of the solutions that have been proffered by your people in the studio there, which some of them are spot on, I think it's something they also have to look at specific solutions for specific industries. Unfortunately, Lagos is so fully built in. What I wanted to say was I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have rest in different corners of Lagos or different pockets of Lagos. So that way you can beat traffic.
I absolutely totally
Because
agree.
for people living on the island, sorry, for people working on the island, I don't see any reason why we cannot have a place on the island for them. Unfortunately, too, we don't have schools. We don't have place for proper recreation for people to debrief from the stress. Because what you have are clubs, strip clubs, and other things that would actually increase your stress levels. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
As
Yes.
against debrief you, distress you properly.
Mm.
You understand?
Mhm.
Because you have like the lady who was part of you or who is still part of you who said he had a breakdown. It happens to everybody. When I was working properly, then you have people of 29 having stroke. 29, 30.
Wow.
Some people go to NPR, and after NPR means monthly performance review.
Yes.
When targets are not met, some people's jobs are on the line. You understand?
Yes.
Families are put in jeopardy and all that. And these guys, some of these guys take their life. Some ladies take their life. So many things happen. So, but I think in order to look at particularly the financial services industry, people may have to start thinking of maybe getting transferred to places where they can sanely walk. Because for God's sake, if you spend 6 hours every day in traffic, it's crazy. You live in Ikorodu, you leave Ikorodu by 3 to get to work. And then you get to work at 6:30, you have a wrapper, you have a pillow somewhere to go and sleep off, and then you are waking up in the morning as a branch staff. Your eyes are looking groggy to attend to customers along the line, you sleep. And then, like somebody said there, you have a branch manager who is fighting with his family or fighting with the landlord, tries to go by 9. Then people are stressed out. People are stressed out. They may look fit physically, but they are not. So I think a lot of things still.
Yes. Mm. Mm. Thank you, Martins. Mm. Mm. Mm.
Right,
Thank you. Thank you, Martins. Thank you. Very valid points that he put forward there. We will touch on some of the factors that he listed out for us and how possible those are in Nigeria. We'll take a break here on Smooth Breakfast. I'm laughing because some of these things there are things we know that we can do, but sometimes we're confused. We're wondering what the bottleneck is. I mean, between identifying these issues and the solutions and then implementing them in our workplace. Let's take a break. Lagos Talks 981. Because things like benefits, because when we come back, I would like for us to look at the issues of, or rather no issues, things that employers can do to help reduce the level of stress. We've already said leave. We've already said all those things like flexi time and all that. But benefits.
Sometimes I wonder that it's not always about what they can do or whether they have the motivation to do it.
Okay.
You know, because again, and so many times that I've had to work with organizations in terms of mental wellness, it's always that hesitation to, like if I give them this small leeway now, am I sure that do you understand? You know, even the organization that I worked with before I finally left after my mental breakdown, we were pushing for flexible working hours because it was getting ridiculous. Like sometimes we work 7 days back to back to back to back in a whole month. And you know, we're coming in very early at 7 a.m. We've already started work. I mean, you better even come early for your own good because you have deadlines. So the earlier you come, the better for you. So you start early, but you don't leave because in my department as a research analyst, we used to start like your work starts when the stock market closes. You know, so that's when your real work starts, and that's about 2:30. So that's your peak period. And then at those times for me, it was how is my brain supposed to function at peak at 2:30?
When you should be preparing.
That's when I should be shutting down from work, you know, and then that was happening. We're just going on like that, and then we don't close to like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. sometimes, and things. So it now had to come back to yes, we're pushing for this thing, but did they really understand what was in it for them? Like, so what's the need for it? So I think sometimes it's being able to communicate the motivation. Like, okay, if you do this and you have the right metrics and you're maybe backed by an institution or an organization that can walk you through how to create these holistic policies, not just let's throw this in. No, sometimes these things are for the long term, and you have to put them in and tweak based on your own organization to get the best results. And then let us see how it affects productivity. Let's see, because for me, that's when I really understood presenteeism. Being present but not being productive.
Yeah.
So you just want to be seeing my face every day, while I'm here.
And then people can do that. And now they
And
even
What
found ways
happens
to
a lot
cheat.
in Nigeria.
To cheat the KPI, was it KPIs? No, those things that they put in place, instruments to track attendance for like.
You know what?
clocking
Please
count.
attendance. You clock in now.
And somebody can
Come
clock
on,
in.
you
And then
clock
some
in.
other people go to the level of installing cameras over the clocking machine to be sure that there are people.
Oh, yes,
are
we used to have my former organization was like that.
Yeah.
In fact,
Boy.
after a while, you have to use your
Doesn't address the real
was your
issues.
five finger tip,
Mm.
5 finger verification that was you that came to work.
Oh boy.
Serious.
You
We're
know,
back.
so-
Actually, we have 4 minutes left.
I can share
So
what some
solutions.
companies are doing.
Yeah. So every conversation now will be 1 minute.
Okay.
Studio.
It's a wrap-up session here on Lagos Talks 981 as we come gradually to the end of the show this morning, but we're still speaking about work-life balance here. Valentine and myself with
Ayo.
our guests, Hauwa, Jude, and Charles. Thank you very much indeed for coming. Still looking at solutions, preferring solutions, and the way forward, really. But before we go there, I'd just like to take a few comments before we proceed. WhatsApp, if you'd like to send a comment, is 0809 444 0981. Calls go to 014489981. Fire says, hi guys, I'll not divulge the name, but I work for a multinational in Nigeria and we have a nap game room and stroke game room, and we also do flexi time and agile working. It really helps with the morale of employees and of course improves productivity. This corroborates what you said, Charles, in terms of the fact that when you look at the benefits to the organization, we don't count that. We think, oh, it's just lazing around, waste of time and money. And we were having this conversation offline. Maybe it's important for us and for employers who are listening to list out or to highlight the benefit of having or encouraging work-life balance in the organization. What are some of the benefits and why should you go for it? Why should you push for it?
Charles.
Some of the benefits of work-life balance?
Yes.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, productivity, staff retention, you reduce staff turnover, you retain talent, the best guys remain with you, and all that. I will also say that if you think some companies are doing, I just mentioned a bank, what they do is they give you an option of a location to work. Your residence,
Okay.
they see the branch close to you and give you the option to say you can make that, you can be posted there. Secondly, they also enforce closing time. When it's 5 o'clock, you have to go. If you have to stay longer than that, you have to send a mail explaining why you have to stay longer than that.
Nice.
So in that case, we ensure that people are productive. They then come to work with their body, their hand, and their mind, and not with one.
Before you pass the mic on to the next, okay, Jude, you had something to add to that?
Yes, so I feel the best way to really address this issue is to look at it from the aspect of the government as well as, the employers.
Okay.
Now, the government, where would they come in? They definitely would have to come in the aspect of transportation. Because, for instance, in Lagos, we keep talking about traffic. If we have good road connectivity, if we have railway lines working, people could live outside Lagos and work in
You
Lagos.
shout it for people in the back to hear.
It would help to decongest Lagos.
Yes.
Because really what causes traffic is congestion. So many people in Lagos.
And limited access routes.
Exactly. So we need to create more roads and again, ensure that the railway system works.
The waterways.
How about economic prosperity? The reason why people would work, and kill themselves, have 2 jobs, 3 jobs, not want to lose their job is because of the state of the economy and the fact that people have to make ends meet.
I absolutely agree with that. Again, we also the government has to look at the economic policies.
Yeah.
It's very important because if the employers continue to increase salaries, again, the system, the economy gulps it.
All right. Very quickly, Hauwa, what do you see as a solution or a part solution? Because I don't think we can solve this thing in one day.
So it's like I said, it's a lot. So I feel like everybody has a role to play.
Yes.
So whether we're talking about government, but I will introduce a different aspect, which is policy.
Okay.
Policy being that, so for example, we're going back and forth on a mental health, bill that has been there, very outdated, needs to be enriched and all of that. And we're looking at what are the possibilities if in this policy you can have quotas and standards for workplaces, for example.
As an event towards this, right? So
Yes,
people
we
can
do.
go on your social media to find out about this.
Yes, yes,
Right,
yes.
brilliant.
Thank you, Charles Aigbona and Jude Adigwe. We are very grateful you could make it into the studio today. And a special thanks to you, Hauwa Ojeifo. Such a pleasure to meet you
Yes,
and hear you talk so passionately about this. What part of your hand, was this the left hand or right hand that the Queen touched you? So I know what
Shake and never wash your hands again. But how can people follow you, Hauwa?
So my organization is on social media, across all social media, at shewriteswoman. So the right is WRITES. So She Writes Woman. Across all social media.
We commend you all for the wonderful work you do, and we're always grateful. You should know that we'll call you back into the studio. And special thanks to everyone who sends the messages, WhatsApp, and the calls. We do appreciate every single one of you. Join us again tomorrow at 6 a.m.
6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And don't be sorry for us. We finish at 11. So we have work-life balance.
Yes, we
But
do.
tomorrow morning, we're back. Thanks very much for tuning in.
Good morning.
Wow. Fast paced.
That's
It's usually that way.